very broad concepts. So we will start by having a closer look to the agenda. What will we be specifically addressing today? We will be talking first about citizenship, but citizenship in a very specific framework. We will see in the next slide which framework. We will also make a distinction between the fast track and the slow track to obtain citizenship within that same framework. We will see what the procedure is to apply and obtain citizenship in Belgium. When we will have closed that chapter, we will go to the residency. Residency, what does that mean for EU nationals? What does that mean for non-EU nationals? I also would like to specify upfront that for all questions related to citizenship or residency for UK citizens after Brexit, we will have a session dedicated to that topic on the 18th of June in the same format that will be given by Massimo Maassen. So, what will we be talking about today in terms of citizenship? We should keep in mind that citizenship should be a lifelong attribute, something that you get, you receive, and then would keep till the end of your life. This is not the case for the residency. How to acquire citizenship? We will see here how we can obtain that attribute when it is not given to you by birth because you're born in Belgium or because your father or mother is Belgian. We will see how the question is tackled for adults, so for persons that are aged of 18 or more. We will not be talking today about naturalization, which is actually another way to obtain the citizenship, but is related to a distinction, honor that you would have because you have performed something special for the country, science, sports, or other achievement. So next point, how do you acquire citizenship in the fast track? We call fast track the citizenship application procedure that apply to individuals that have been here uninterruptedly for the 5 last years at least. The first thing you need is to be able to show an uninterrupted stay of 5 years. How do you do that? You have to submit your, excuse me, I think the presentation.
So Eléonore will be back in a second. She might have had an issue with her connection. So stay tuned. In the meanwhile, if anyone has a question up front that we could already take into consideration for the next steps, feel free to add them in the chat box, better than adding them while speaking. I remember everyone, please to keep yourself on mute because it's easier. In the meanwhile, we hope that you are all safe and well at home, that no one has had an issue with the current pandemic situation, and that you are all doing well. So thank you for your patience. It comes back, of course. So Eléonore is almost there. As we can say, it's like, how to say, you know, in theater or in the cinema, things that are unexpected. So I can give you a story or say a joke. It's up to you.
I am back.
You are back, Eléonore. This is great. So in the meanwhile, I just explain to everyone that we have had an issue, technical issue, but you are back. That's the best thing we can hear. So enjoy the presentation and have fun.
Excuse me. Thank you, Pauline. Thank you, Pauline, for the bridge. So we were talking about the fast track for citizenship acquisition. I was just mentioning that the first thing that we need is to be able to show uninterrupted stay in Belgium on the last 5 years. How do you do that? You will first need to show your current residency card. That can be a card B, C, D, E plus, F plus, or an Annex 8 bis or an Annex 22. We will have a closer look to those different cards in a few slides. Just keep in mind that you need to show your card that is a proof that you have been staying here for at least 5 years. Another thing that is very helpful to apply for citizenship is a residency record, which is actually the document, a certificate you can get from the town hall listing all addresses where you have stayed in Belgium. You can have twice an absence of 6 months in those five years. That can be tolerated within the citizenship application procedure. You also need to show sufficient economic integration. Did you contribute to the community? Did you contribute to the society economically? How can you show that? Because you've been working, because you've started a company, you've paid taxes, you bought a house, or you contributed to the social security, for example. Are exempted from that condition retired individuals or invalid individuals or persons that are married to a Belgian citizen or are a parent of a Belgian child that is still younger than 18 years. You also need to be able to show social integration. It is actually an indication of how well you became a part of the community, the society in Belgium, by means of work, indeed, or following an education, participating in the community by volunteering or other activities, and again are exempted from that condition, retired, invalid, or born in Belgium individuals. Another requirement would be to show that you master one of the 3 national languages sufficiently. You all know that the 3 national languages are French, Dutch, and German. And again, persons, individuals that are retired or invalid at the moment of the application will be exempted. Also, individuals that were born in Belgium will be exempted of that condition. Or if your proof of social integration is strong enough. I will share you in a few slides, but before the end of the presentation, a website where all means to provide those proofs are listed. This should be enough for you to at least start and assess your situation. And if you have more specific questions because you do not recognize what you have in hand within the list, you can send us a mail and either myself, either Massimo will get back to you with an advice. There is another track to apply for citizenship. It is lighter, but it is lighter just because people have been here for a longer period of time. So the slow track applies to individuals who want to apply for Belgian citizenship, but are able to show uninterrupted stay in Belgium for at least 10 years. Again, what do you have to show here? First, your uninterrupted stay. You have to show your residency card that can be B, C, D, E or E+, F or F+, an Annex 8 or an Annex 8+, or an Annex 22. We will again have a look later on what all of those, each of these cards and annexes do mean. You can have here 4 times an absence of 6 months that can be tolerated within the citizenship acquisition procedure. Nevertheless, you will have to demonstrate a contribution to the community. You will have to show that you've been working here, that you have been paying taxes, that you have contributed to social security, that you have followed some education, that you have integrated in Belgium. Even testimonials from friends or neighbors or colleagues can be helpful. You will have to show that you know and master one of the 3 national languages again. And equally to the previous track, retired, invalid, or born in Belgium individuals will be exempted from those conditions. And even if you can show that you have integrated enough, then the authorities might consider that you do not need to show your knowledge of the languages. Again, all those pieces and your file in his hall will be assessed before the application is submitted. So you can contact Massimo or myself to have a first assessment of your file before you submit it, or just rely on the assessment of the town hall officer. We will see here what the main milestones are to acquire Belgian citizenship within the framework that we have described just now. The first thing you have to do is lodging your application with the town hall of the place of residence. It is done, it's a formality, so you will have to have all your files with you. You will fill out a form and pay an administrative fee. The town hall officer then has 1 month to assess it. It's not whichever town hall officer, it's the town hall officer in charge of the civil registry. If the town hall officer thinks it's enough and approves your file, he will send it through to the public prosecutor, called Procureur Général in French. If within that month he found out that there are some incoherences, inconsistencies, or some missing pieces, he will inform you on what you should bring as correction or addition before transferring the file to the public prosecutor. And you will have 2 months the time to gather the correct or missing pieces. After that, so say from the moment the file is with the public prosecutor has 4 months the time to he has 4 months the time to give an advice. If the town hall does not receive a negative advice within those 4 months, the citizenship will be granted and you will be informed by registered mail. In case there is a negative advice shared to you by the same registered mail, you will have the possibility to appeal against the decision. Anyway, when the citizenship is granted, you will have the full procedure formalized with the town hall of the place of residence, who will issue a new identity card. Now we have covered in the big lines the citizenship question. If you have questions, please note them down, and we will answer them in the Q&A session. Please, when the Q&A session starts, ask your question in the chat box and we will take them one by one. We will now be talking about residency for EU nationals and for non-EU nationals. I'm mentioning here EU nationals, but I would like to specify that Swiss and Liechtenstein nationals will have to follow the same track. The first thing I should say is that the residency in Belgium and other member states for EU nationals is based on the EU basic statement of the free circulations of persons and goods. It is mandatory to register. I would like to clarify that apply for residency means the same thing as registering. So residency application and registration application are two words to refer to the same procedure. And this procedure is mandatory for stays that are longer than 3 months. So it is 3 months or more. It has to be requested to the town hall of residency. So the place where you are living. The main milestones for that registration or residency application procedure are the following. You need to show up at the town hall and come with your lease contract, your work contract or proof of sufficient income. In certain cases, you need to show a proof of health insurance, you need to show your national ID, and if you're coming with family, with relatives, you will need to show a marriage certificate or alternatives, which we will see in a few slides, to have your spouse registered with you, and birth certificates to have your children registered with you. In February 2019, a new EU regulation was reinforced and enabled, which means that there are now ways to avoid the legalization and translation procedures of civil registry documents that have been issued in EU countries. We will see that in a few slides as well. Once you have shown all those documents to the town hall, you will receive your Annex 19, and the town hall will request a residency check to be performed. That will be performed by a police officer or a police inspector in charge of your neighborhood. He will pass by your place of residence, he will check that you are actually living there, and then give a positive advice to the town hall. When the town hall has received that positive advice, he will invite you for a next appointment to order, and then 10 days later to collect your card. It will be an E card for the main applicant and an F card for his relatives. In case the residency check could not happen because the police officer came by and you were not at home, or for any other reason, that can bring some delay in the registration procedure. It is a moment of chaos, sometimes frustration, but you should keep in mind that as long as you're living in the place, there are always ways to bring that to a good end. Most of the time, the police inspector will leave a note in your mailbox if he passed by and could not find you. But I would say if after 3 weeks from your first appointment at the town hall where you submitted all those documents, you still did not meet the police officer or did not find a note in your mailbox, you should contact your residency, your town hall of residency or the police station. Or if you are assisted by a relocator, give a sign to your relocator. The full procedure takes usually from 6 weeks to 4 months. It is 6 weeks in the best cases, I would say. It can even last longer than 4 months. It's all depending, I would say, on the workload of the town hall of residency and also on the good coordination between the police officer and the town hall. This is for EU nationals. How would that work for non-EU nationals? Non-EU nationals will first need to go through immigration and visa application formalities. These have been impacted by the COVID-19 crisis in relation to the travel ban on Schengen that is for now confirmed till 15th of June. We hope that after 15th of June, those restrictions will be lifted, but it is true that at the moment, and at least till 15th of June, no visa are granted. What do you need to have that visa? Most of the time, if you're coming here on a long-term stay, you will be applying for a visa D. You need to apply for a work permit, which is now a single permit. You will have, and that is based on regular work agreement with a Belgian-based company that is willing to support your single permit application. You can also base your visa application on a professional card that will be related to a proper business plan for the setup of a company in Belgium. Or your visa will be based on a family reunification. This is when you are a family member of the main applicant and you will follow his reason to come over to Belgium. I also would like to add the following as a side note. Some countries are visa exempted, which means that with only your single permit, your professional card, or you will be, and documents stating that you're all the same family, it should be enough for you to come over and regularize your stay within a reasonable time frame. Please note that registration or residency application procedure are mandatory for stays of 3 months or more. And for shorter stay, anyway, you will have to do a declaration of arrival. That same declaration of arrival, also called Annex 3, is recommended even for persons that have long-term plans in Belgium and are coming with a visa D. Please note, though, that the processing time of registration procedures or declaration of arrival request with some town halls are extremely long. So in some situation, it is enough to show that you have done all you could do to regularize your stay. And if the processing time of the town hall is too long to have you regularized on time, then I would say the responsibility is not anymore 100% with you. In case of doubt, though, please make sure that you have a very close follow-up with the town hall, and you can always ask for help with your relocator or with the person who's assisting your registration. Again, the residency application for non-EU nationals has to be requested with the town hall of residency. The milestones are quite comparable with the milestones of the residency application for EU nationals. You will need to show first your lease contract and your Annex 46 and 47. These are new, I would say, new documents that are requested since the introduction of the single permit in January 2019. The Annex 46 is a letter from the immigration office that you would receive in your country of origin, certificating that you are granted the authorization to stay and work in Belgium. The Annex 47 is the same document, but that is not sent in your country of origin. It will be sent in Belgium at the address that you will have given in your application form. If you show those documents, it should be enough for the town hall with your national passport, of course. It should be enough for the town hall to process your registration. But we see on the field that some town halls still ask for your work contract or a single permit and proof of registration with the Banque Carrefour des Entreprises in case you have applied for a professional card. Again, if you are coming with a family, you of course need to have your wife, or spouse, or partner and children registered with you. So you will have to show marriage or certificate or alternative certificates and birth certificates that will need to be legalized or apostilled. And we will see later on how you can know if your document needs to be legalized or if an apostille will be sufficient. As for the EU national registration, one of a very important milestone is the residency check. I won't go through the same explanation. It works exactly the same way. You will meet a town hall officer at your house, and when he has met you and seen that you are living at the address, he will send a positive advice to the town hall. And once the town hall has received that positive advice, he will invite you to order and then 10 days later collect your A card. A little additional information. Once you have ordered your ID card, which is we saw E or F for EU nationals and A for non-EU nationals, you will receive by regular mail in your mailbox a letter from the town hall with some PIN and PUC codes. We also call them the activation codes. With that letter, you can go to the town hall and collect your residency card. On the next slide, I would like to go with you shortly on what we call permanent residency. What we have seen in the two previous slides apply to a first registration. So when you first arrive in Belgium and apply for residency, you receive those E, F, or A cards. What happens if you want to apply for permanent residency? In short, and please keep in mind that every situation will probably need to have a specific assessment and a specific treatment. EU nationals, once they have stayed uninterruptedly for 5 years, can apply for E+ card. And EU family members, once they can show an uninterrupted stay of 5 years, they can apply for a F+ card. Non-EU nationals, once they are able to show an uninterrupted stay and work, that's very important, of 5 years or more, they will be able to apply for a D card. The annex you would receive at the town hall, and you need to apply for at the town hall when asking for permanent residency, is called the Annex 22. I'm adding that piece of information because if you plan to ask for permanent residency with an eye on citizenship, please keep that Annex 22 preciously, because it is a proof that the authorities have already considered and approved your stay in Belgium as an uninterrupted stay of 5 years or more. Here I listed some useful websites on which you can find information, particular information on what we have shared before. The first website is a reference to the EU regulation on the circulation of civil registry documents issued in EU countries. So I know it is still very common in town halls in Belgium that you receive as an instruction that if a document is issued in Poland and in Polish, for example, you would need to have it legalized and translated before you can use it for a registration purpose in Belgium. Now, there is an EU regulation that entered into force in February 2019 that says that any document issued with your municipality of origin in a certain format, you need to ask for that very format with your town hall of origin, can be used for registration purposes in your town hall of residency in Belgium. I insist, not all town halls use that regulation that same way, but it is good to know at least that you are entitled to ask them to use that document issued by your town hall of origin to process your registration procedure. The second website is unfortunately only in French, but it gives a very good idea of all you should do in order to gather the proofs of residency, uninterrupted residency, economic integration, and social integration. The two next websites, they are both pages from DOFI, so the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and it gives you a good idea on what you should do in order to apply for long-term residency. And the last website is a website in Dutch, no translation in English either. But for the ones who have been here for a while, it should not be too much of a problem. And it gives you an idea on how you can show social integration for citizenship purposes. That was it. Now, even for the residency question, I would like to leave you now the opportunity to ask questions in your chat box, please, and I will answer them. Again, if there are questions that are too specific, then we will just leave them for you to send them by mail to Massimo or myself, and we will get back to you with either an appropriate answer, either a consultation offer.
Thank you very much, Eléonore, for this useful and full of details presentation. I can see on the chat box that we have many questions, so I might start with some of them that might be easier to explain to answer. So we have Carl asking about, in the very beginning of your presentation, he was asking about the sufficient knowledge for the language. How is it shown, by speaking or in a writing test? Do you have more details about this level of knowledge needed?
Yes. Yes. So again, if you have a look at, I will answer the question, right? But if you have a look at the second link that I showed on the last slide, you will see that in details. How do you show sufficient knowledge of the language? It is, for example, if you have followed a full educational curriculum in Belgium, that's one idea. Or you can go to specific institutes that will take the test and give you the certificate in a format that is used for citizenship applications. I think maybe Massimo will have something to add on that.
Hello. Yes. Just a warning, I'm going to share my screen. I apologize for my appearance. It's the result of 2 months of social distancing and lockdown, working from home. Here we go. Hello, everyone. So if I can add on that, the proof of knowledge of one of the 3 languages can actually be, it's quite significant. There's a lot of different ways to prove that. The starting point is that you should have at least an A2 level of knowledge of those languages, but it can also be proven by, for instance, 5 years of uninterrupted work in Belgium, a degree from an educational institution in Belgium, starting from higher secondary school, with the caveat that it needs to be in one of those 3 languages. Also, a certificate of an integration course would help. An actual certificate of passing one of those 3 languages, so at least A2 level would also be sufficient. So there's a lot of ways to prove your language skills. On top of that, proof of social integration can also sometimes be considered as proof of the language skills. So, for instance, if you want to obtain Belgian citizenship through integration, you need to prove social integration. For instance, you prove you have worked in Belgium for 5 years uninterruptedly. That proof can be considered as sufficient proof of knowing one of those 3 languages. So you always have to look at your specific situation to see whether, in fact, you still have to go and follow a course and obtain the A2 level of knowledge of that language. I hope that's...
Thank you, Massimo. We have indeed a question that it's a little bit reflecting to what you said about, so Krishna Kumar asked us, being in Belgium for more than 9 years with children going to the Dutch school, does she need to show any additional proof of attending social integration course or language?
Well, a situation like that, I would like to see for Krishna specifically, because living in Belgium for more than 9 years, under what status?
Okay, so that might be a question to answer more face-to-face or via...
But in general, I can say that there might be other ways to prove knowledge of one of the 3 languages.
Okay. Okay, good. So we have a question also from Robert and Carl about being retired. So Eléonore, what does it mean? Is 65 years old as you know, age being retired, or what are the specific prescription of being retired?
So I would like maybe to get back on that wording, because I apologize. I made language mistake. I said first so retired, but also invalid people. It's invalid. I made a quick translation from invalide in French, which actually means disabled persons, right? Thank you, Dave, for clarifying and raising that. So I would like to avoid any misunderstanding. When I said invalid individuals, I meant disabled individuals. And when we are talking about retired, it is indeed persons that have been working and have reached the retirement age. And depending on the situation, so I would say the general retirement age in Belgium is 65, but we know that depending on the job and depending on the personal situation of the person, that age can be a little bit lower. Massimo, do you agree on that, or should I add something?
It's actually it's more about the age than in fact actually being retired. So for the purposes of obtaining Belgian citizenship, the Belgian authorities say or consider someone who is 65 as having the age of retirement.
Okay.
So it's not even actually required that you are retired. If you're 65, they consider you as being retired. And then you could apply for Belgian citizenship when other factors are or conditions are met. The way to prove this is by a birth certificate. That's the most straightforward proof.
Okay. Okay. So, and I think Massimo, this question would be for you also. Anne is asking how does one demonstrate an uninterrupted stay with the passport, or is there any other way to that you can shed a little bit of light on this aspect, please?
So it's with proof of having legal residence. So if you can prove, and the most straightforward proof is the actual residence card, of course. So you can't prove it with your passport. You need to have, for instance, if you have had an A card for so many years, residence card A, and now you have a B or a D card, you actually prove you have stayed in Belgium for the validity of those cards. If the card is valid, you have stayed in Belgium. Otherwise, you wouldn't have had the card. So you prove it by the residence cards, and even by some annexes, as you say in the presentation.
Yes.
Okay.
I know some town hall also issue residency records. It is actually a document, an official document from the town hall where you are registered at the moment of your citizenship application, they can issue a list of all the addresses where you have stayed still and where you were registered till from the very first. Yeah.
Okay. We have a question. Thank you, Eléonore. We have a question from Jennifer. Once you get the D card, how soon can she apply for citizenship?
It is, I will leave it to Massimo because I know that the citizenship application for non-EU nationals is not as straightforward as for EU nationals.
So depending on whether you meet the requirements, it might very well be that you can apply for it immediately. So that's something I would have to look into together with Jennifer, like how long have you been in Belgium? How long have you been working in Belgium? But it can actually, there's no a minimum amount of time you need to wait after having received a D card. So it might very well be that you can apply for it already.
Okay, thank you. And we have also a question from Osgur about, but I think that's a personal question, but as a general information, is there a specific agreement on with specific countries? Because being a Turkish, with the Turkish citizenship, is there a difference in the citizenship application?
No. There's no. I know there's like the association agreements with Turkey and Morocco, for instance, but it has no influence on obtaining Belgian citizenship. So the same requirements need to be met as for other.
Yes. Okay. If I can just recall everyone to stay on mute, that would be great. Thank you very much. Let me see for additional questions that might be interesting for you know, like more general questions, because I realize that many are more specific or personal. So yes, I think it's about also the type of cards. So that would be the context would be needed, I understand, to give a complete answer.
I see a question from Christina about 6 months straight. I think that had to do with being outside of Belgium, but that time spent outside of Belgium would still count towards an uninterrupted stay. So she asked 6 months straight. So yes, but that's a maximum.
Okay.
And in any case, it's as you said, 2 times 6 months, so 1/5 of the entire period of time, the 5 years of uninterrupted stay. And in any case, if you know that you will be leaving Belgium, it's always prudent to notify the town hall to make sure they are aware, and that would avoid any issues when returning. If you don't do that, and even if you stay longer, there's always the possibility to discuss your personal situation with the authorities. That's my experience, not only with nationality, with citizenship application, also with work permit applications. If you discuss the specific case with the authorities and you make them understand that specific situation, there's always room for understanding and discretion. But it's always best to be transparent and open and clear to the authorities beforehand.
Sure, thank you. Then I think we've covered most of the questions. Eléonore, I leave it to you to close the webinar.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Pauline, for facilitating this. Thank you very much, Massimo, for your insights. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We will close the session. We would like to still draw your attention on the contact available here. So if you have any question, you can ask it on connect@brightexpats.com or immigration@brightexpats.com, and we will get back to you with an answer or a consultation offer, depending on how specific and special is your situation. So, wishing you a good day, and I very much hope to see you in our session of June 18. Bye. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.